Hi, I'm Chris McKenna from Protect Young Eyes, and I'm so happy to have this opportunity to have a conversation about a really important topic. And it's the topic of pornography, one that probably doesn't come up over dinner or very frequently. But friends, it's one that I want us to have more frequently. Whether you're a parent, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, whatever role you find yourself in, if you have young people who you are around, it's a topic that I want us to be comfortable with. Maybe not always initiating the conversation, but being open to, if it comes up, you know what to do, what to say, and to be ready for it. Because the pornography that our young people deal with today is radically different than maybe what you remember. Maybe that two-dimensional magazine that was somewhere that you had to go find. In other words, porn was something that we pursued and we went toward, and that's not the way that it is today. Pornography is pursuing our young people. It's showing up in their pockets. It's in the places where we're asking them to be for good and God-honoring, reasons, be it homework or other places. And yet it can sometimes be there too. So how do we equip our young people to deal with this topic? That's what I want to talk about. Some recent survey data is showing us how prevalent of a problem this is. Some recent information from Common Sense Media tells us that 54% of children ages 13 and below have already sought out pornography, right? So that's a call to action for us. Why? Because I want us to be the first voice in the lives of our children when it comes to God's design for our bodies and sex and intimacy and marriage, right? I don't want porn teaching them its version of who we are. I want them to hear it first from you. So it's survey data like that, which I think calls us to action. Other information from this survey from Common Sense said that among those who are intentionally searching, 44% did so via mainstream pornography sites that we know are pornographic. But here's the statistic that I think is really important for us to pay attention to, that 38% of these young people, ages 13 to 17, they sought out porn through social media, TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat. In other words, friends, this is not the pornography that we grew up with. It is not this bright line between this is porn and this is not. There's a mixing in the spots where our young people are spending time doing things like social media. Guess what? Porn is also there. And pornography is a super normal stimulus, which is going to make our brain fire up in ways that other stimulus don't. And that's designed by God, designed to adhere us to our spouse through that beautiful, life-giving, generous act of sex with your spouse. It adheres us together neurologically, spiritually, emotionally. It does things to us that other experiences don't. And porn mimics that same adhesion. And that's what I want us to be so careful of, because young people, their brains are different than ours, right? We know that. I say that and you'll go, yeah, I agree. But scientifically, we can prove that young people have mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are more prevalent and they somewhat go away as we get a little bit older, but they're necessary because they allow young people to mimic what they see. And that's a beautiful thing. Maybe sometimes embarrassing if they say or do things that you've said and you don't want them to repeat back, but it allows them to learn and to grow by observing the world around them and then reflecting those behaviors back. And that is the problem with pornography. Because as I talk to those who do some of the just amazing but horrible work of helping families recover from sexual abuse, both those who have had children who have abused others and those whose children have been abused by others, for kids who abuse other kids, and this is becoming more and more prevalent, the number one common denominator among children who sexually abuse other children is an early childhood exposure to pornography. In other words, what our young people see is what neurologically they feel compelled to do. And that should call us to action. That should call us to action relationally so that we are connecting with our children on this topic, and technically so we can put protections in place, which we'll cover in other videos. But I want to focus on the side of how can we just on this topic relationally connect and do specific things to help our children deal with this topic. There's 6 things that I want to cover, and they're going to dabble a little bit both on the relational and technical side here, and I want to go through them, and I hope that they're helpful. Number 1, I want us to make porn the norm. And some of you right now are going, wait a minute, what did he just say? That's right. I want us to make pornography a normal conversation. Why? Because I want to rob the devil of his curiosity power over our children when it comes to this topic. I want you to be the authority. And that comes from saying certain things frequently and persistently with them so they see you as the authority. I want them to Google you when they have questions about important topics like pornography. That means we have conversations early and often about a lot of digital topics, but this one in particular. One of the phrases that we use at Protect Young Eyes is 10 before 10, meaning I want us to have 10 conversations about the topic of pornography before age 10. Now, if you're watching this and you're going, oh my gosh, my child is 9, I got to cram them in. That's not what I want you to do. That might make you feel a little bit better, but that's not going to be helpful for your child who now is inundated with all of this, now what? That's not what I want. But I want us to look for opportunities to drip in conversations so that you build digital trust with your son or daughter. Because when I say things like 10 before 10, we automatically default to, oh my gosh, I need to have a presentation, they need to sit down, they need to clap and all. That's not what I'm talking about. I think you would be surprised what qualifies as a porn talk. When you're dropping them off at school and you're listening to the radio and you turn it down while you're waiting there, maybe in the drop-off line or whatever it might be. And you say, you know what, honey? Sometimes online, we see things. And I just want you to know that anything you might see, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, you can always tell me. There's nothing that you could say to me about what you've seen online that honestly would ever get you into trouble. I'm safe. And then turn up the music and keep driving. Friends, that's a porn talk. You never said the word, yet your son or daughter knows that if something made them feel uncomfortable, whether it was intentional or accidental, that they can come to you. That's what I mean by make porn the norm. Building a bridge for even awkward topics so they know that they can come and talk to you. The second thing that I want us to focus on is delay is the way. What do I mean by that is I want us to delay certain technologies as long as possible. Now, we are a pro-technology organization. We say pro-kid, pro-tech, but protect. And I think one of the ways that we can protect our kiddos is by delaying certain exposures to certain technologies as long as possible. If you want to have me draw a bright line, I don't think children under 16 should have social media. Not because I'm mean, but it's because neurologically I just don't think they're ready for it. And some of that data shows us that when it comes to this topic of pornography, they're being exposed even through social media way too soon. Delay is the way. I don't think any middle school child is a better version of themselves, emotionally, spiritually, or relationally, because of the presence of social media in their lives. Delay as long as possible. I'm all about talk, text, and GPS. I just don't think they need to carry the internet nor certain apps with them until they're into high school. That's the second thing that I would say. Number 3 is hug your router. That's another weird thing to say. This is on that technical side of things, but I want us to appreciate the power, especially for younger children, because early accidental exposures when they're doing homework happens way too often. Chromebooks and devices that rely on Wi-Fi rely on our router so that it is protected. Is your router filtered? We have plenty of recommendations that we make on our website at protectyoungeyes.com that can help you make that decision, because that's one of those technical areas that often we're afraid of because we just don't understand it. So we kind of ignore it and it sits behind the couch. But I want us to embrace the power that your router has, whether you're a parent or a grandparent when kids come over and they're now on your Wi-Fi. Are they protected? Have you filtered it? That's the third thing that I would say. Number 4 is don't freak out, right? That's on us. Like literally, I want you to go stand in front of a mirror. You could be a parent or a grandparent. I want you to go stand in front of a mirror, close the door so people don't think you're weird, but stand in front of that mirror. And I want you to imagine all of the horrible things that could happen to your son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter online. And then I want you to imagine them telling you those things. It could be pornography. And then I want you to say out loud, I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to freak out. And I'm not going to freak out. They need to know from your facial expressions to everything. And trust me, they will assess whether or not you're safe in about a half a second. And I need them to know that you're okay, that you accept them just like Christ accepts us as we are, unconditionally, always forgiving, that's your posture with them. So they can continue, because you need to learn. If they've had an exposure to pornography, whether intentional or accidental, now what's important is to be curious to learn how did it happen so that we can prevent that from happening in the future. And that only happens if they know that you're safe and they'll continue to share things with you. So don't freak out. The fifth thing that I want us to think about is to crush shame. And this is particularly important with our daughters because we live in a time where they are being exposed to pornography more and more frequently. Yet culturally, it is unacceptable for a young lady to struggle with pornography. This is seen as the guy's issue. And friends, I'm telling you, that is simply no longer the case. And so the monster of shame is going to do more damage to them, to keep them quiet, to keep them struggling in the darkness. And so look at your daughters and say, hey, you may run into things or whatever may get sent to you. And I just want you to know, talk to me about that. The internet doesn't care about you. You're going to bump into things from time to time, pornographic. And I want you to know that there's nothing you couldn't talk to me about. Ignore that little lying voice in your head that is saying there's something wrong with you, you're dirty or horrible because that's happened. That's a lie. And you can talk to me. So we need to crush that shame. And then finally, and this is for parents mostly, get help if needed, right? Listen for signs that your son or daughter is struggling more than you have the ability to help with. It could be a compulsive nature that they just simply can't stop, that once you've intervened, they just simply can't stop, or that they're stealing devices out of drawers in the middle of the night in order to look at things, right? If you're at a point where you're beyond what you are able to do, then don't let pride get in the way. Get help. That could be professionally through some counselor, spiritual advisor, whatever it is. Reach out and get help. This is a serious issue. And if left to go on too long, especially during this very important developmental phase, it can do great damage to their brain, these deep ruts that are carved because it is a supernormal stimulus. I want to stop that as soon as possible so that we can get towards healing and recovery. So friends, this is not an easy one. Chew on these ideas and then put them into practice. Don't think you've got to have it all perfect before you have that first conversation. Fumble and bumble your way through it. I think they'll appreciate the fact that you're trying. You might even preface it by saying, I'm not good at this. I don't know how to have all of these conversations. And right there, you've already built a little bit of digital trust with them so that you can have these important conversations. If you have any questions after this, you can always reach out to us at Protect Young Eyes for additional help. Thank you so much.